All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Good morning, everyone. Hello, and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Lindy Greebe, and I'm the Research Forum Lead for the Good Governance Academy. Today, we are delighted to be hosting another webinar entitled Entrepreneurship Ecosystem, Dynamics and Challenges. It will be presented by Dr. Sami Miahui. I hope I get that right, Sami. A dynamic entrepreneur and social scientist, and Prof. Samir Maliki, a visiting professor from the University of Brest in France. As always, it's great to have so much interest in these events, and it's nice to see so many returning faces and guests. Please do let us know where you're from in the chat window below. I hope it's somewhere warmer and sunnier than Europe. And I think Cape Town is windy at the moment, Carolyn. My husband is visiting Cape Town.
Yes, it is.
I am, okay. I'm situated in Pretoria near Johannesburg, and it's already hot and we're ready for a swim. Anyways, while people continue to join, I'll share some tips to those that are not familiar with Zoom. If you can't see the control panel on your screen, please press the Alt key on your keyboard. That'll give you access to the chat box, the question box, and reaction buttons, like I see on the screen right now. Our speakers love to see your reactions, so do please make good use of these. And if you have any questions during the event, please pop these in the question box, and we'll be happy to ask these during a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, if time allows. Alternatively, we'll share anyways our presenters' details with you and more about them in the chat box, the links to their LinkedIn profiles, etc., for you to have a look at. You also feel free to use the chat box to connect with each other and make comments on the presentations as we go along. We'll be sharing our LinkedIn details and the link to the presentation after this as well. Okay. So just a bit on the Good Governance Academy as well. For those who are not familiar with the Good Governance Academy, we're a non-profit organization that was established by Prof. Mervyn King in 2019. We collaborate with universities, business schools, professional bodies, and other organizations all around the globe to educate and empower leadership to uncover, address, and overcome critical business issues. We're all about good governance. We run regular webinars on current topics as a service to our growing community. And if you'd like to see what we have planned, please head over to our events page, which I'll post a link to in the chat window below. We'd also encourage you to join our mailing list and follow us on LinkedIn to be kept informed on forthcoming events. In addition to the webinars, we host colloquia twice a year. These are high-profile events which have been attended by thousands of people. The output of these shared with over 5 million professionals through our network support member group. We also run these showcase events to promote courses which the Academy has endorsed. The endorsement program is available to any organization and involves an assessment against specific criteria. The courses we endorse are those we feel address business critical issues, provide users with current and relevant content, and are internationally applicable. Endorsement is available for courses of all formats, online, in-person, and hybrid. So you have a course you'd like to put forward, please visit our training page or drop an email to Mark. You'll find his details online on our website, or you're welcome to also reach out to me. My details there as well. And we'll include the details also in the link in the chat. Okay. Anyone who registers for an endorsed course through the GGA will receive our certificate of attendance. These certificates are CPD accredited by the GGA's support members. Okay, so there you have a bit on the background of the GGA and how you can become involved. And indeed, we're really keen on collaborating whether it's sharing your knowledge on our platform, also doing research and further exploration of good governance together, feel free to reach out to us. You'll find our contact details online. But that's it. Enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Sammy to do a brief introduction and then also introduce our presenter today, Samir Malik. Thank you, guys. Over to you, Sammy.
Thank you very much, Lindy. It's a big pleasure to be here today and have, such a wide audience of people from across all, countries and across continents. So I'm very happy to be here. I mean, I'm replacing Dr. Mehdi Bouchtara. I'm at the moment in Coventry University. I'm making research on entrepreneurial ecosystem. So when the opportunity arose, I was very delighted to be here and to meet Professor Samir Maliki, who did a lot of, papers, and he's a prominent researcher at Tlemcen, at the University of Brest. So I'm really excited to get to know more about your research, Professor Samir. Could you please tell us a little bit about what is your interest and how come did you end up, in this topic?
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon for all participants.
Welcome.
It's a huge pleasure for me to be with you, and thank you very much for the invitation. My career started 22 years before when I was a young assistant researcher at Tlemcen University. And you can see behind me my picture, this one of the monuments of Tlemcen city in Algeria that I advise you to visit it. And also I prepared my PhD in France, in Versailles University in Paris. I defend in 2010. I take a position at Tlemcen University. I found a master and a PhD program on economic engineering and enterprise. I supervise 15 theses, PhD and master in these topics about entrepreneurship and innovation. And the debate 20 years before was how we can talk about maybe innovation and entrepreneurship for the southern countries. And this is not the same literature, not the same conceptualization. And this was one of the motivation that pushed me to be interested in these topics. My PhD was about poverty, how we measure poor households using, for example, water access. So my field is economics and business, but dedicated to SDGs in general in economic development. That's why in my publication and my research topics, you can read, for example, water, poverty, innovation, entrepreneurship, employment, etc. So sometimes for the South countries, namely in North African and MENA countries, Middle East and North Africa, and actually for some Mediterranean countries, my actual topics are about how, for example, desalination, because now there is a huge problem of climate change, water scarcity, and how, for example, this new policy of seawater desalination can impact negatively the Mediterranean sea, but in parallel, how we can provide safe water, drinking water to population. So this is the huge and the actual topics that I am working. The last chapter that I published with the Plomb Bleu in Marseille, a think tank who works with the UNDP. It was about the case of Algeria with the survey on some households with some colleagues. And so this in general, actually 3 years before, from 2020, I am in Brest, Western Brittany University in Brest as a visiting professor. So I teach and I make also research with the laboratory AMUR. So this is briefly, if I can, in some words, sorry for I present myself. Thanks, Sam.
This is impressive, really good, really long and really nice career, Professor Maliki. One of my question is how did you, because you started with a kind of a broad topic, like studying and researching economics and governance in general, and how did you end up by such a niche topic and working on water and resilience, and how did you end up, narrowing down that topic?
I think the response is very easy, because I think all science, all academia must be dedicated to the human. And I think we are living in the same globe, we are living in the same earth, and maybe the problem is now in this area, will be moved in next time T+1 or T+2 to another area. So if we can resolve all the different kind of problems in different areas at the same time, maybe we can talk about sustainability. And this sustainability, for me, the main axe is the human. That's why when I talk about water, about poverty, about governance, about employment, about entrepreneurship, about innovation, all these topics in general, the common achievement is the well-being of the human.
That's very meaningful. I love this purpose. It makes such, like motivation when you wake up in the morning and go and make your research. But one of my question, I was wondering, because one of the weakness of academia in general, and I am an academic, so I allow myself to criticize academia, is the lack of practicality. So okay, let's work on a paper. Let's have some really crucial findings that will solve these, very crucial problems. How do we end up implementing that project? How do we end up convincing policymakers to implement that kind of project? Because it necessitates a big budget, a big investment. And I'm keen to listen to your point of view on that.
Yeah, it's, for example, when I decide to start new topics or new paper research, my first question is very easy. What is the policy implication? I start by what is the policy implication, really, how we can apply the result of what I will do as research in practice. I think that's why I tell you that sometimes in the literature, when I read some policy implication, but in my mind, I was living in Algeria, I tell in myself, we cannot apply this. I know the ecosystem, I know the environment, I know the laws, I know all the culture also. So we cannot apply this. We can apply only for specific areas, right? We cannot generalize it. And I think this is the main questions that we try to ask ourselves, even we start new topics. What is the policy implication who will be really good in the practice? How we can practice this. So from science or from research to practice, I think this is the sentence that I use all time in my research.
This is very clear.
Sammy, if I may jump in here, this is such an important point that you guys are making, because that's what I always say, we always say about the Good Governance Academy. It's such a lovely platform where we can bring together practitioners and researchers or academia, and where the message can be shared between the two groups or interest groups, can I call it that? But Prof. Samir, you said that we can't have a one-size-fits-all solution. Would you elaborate on that? You also referred to the global north versus the global south. What is the work you're doing, and what are the findings, the challenges, etc., in that sense at the moment in terms of entrepreneurship, the difference between global north and south, and your designs in terms of that?
Yeah, a very, very huge question. But I think now, if I talk about entrepreneurship ecosystem in general, we start in the literature talking about this. And now I think the last publications are talking about what we call sub-ecosystem. It means that in the same ecosystem in general, I must decompose in sub-ecosystems in other sections, taking in consideration some specific characteristics of the culture, of the nation, of the population, of the age population, of the opportunities or inequality of opportunities in employment, of laws, of regulations, etc. So this is, I think, the complex problem and the complex situation that you try how you measure this, because in fact, if we are talking about entrepreneurship, we are talking about management. And in management, if you don't measure, you cannot manage. I cannot tell you in the next year, I will achieve this level. What is this level? Can you transform this in numbers? So I think we try to, sometimes in quantitative, sometimes in qualitative, but we try to make measure. And if we don't measure, we cannot talk management. So you are scientists now. If tomorrow you will be politics, you will get a position in politics, you will change the 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 language, because when you talk with politics, you try to find this good language to be, for example, in politics, you try to talk money in quantitative numbers. This project will cost this amount. This project, we try to invest this amount. We try to collect this. So, and you have a lot of decisions to take. In the same time, you have a lot of variables, and you must choose, you must take decisions. And your decision will depend on how you measure significantly and with good measures to be able to take the optimal decision at the time. So I think now from the south to the north, in general, in the literature review, we have only like the success stories in the north. But we have like very like literature who talk about also some success stories in the south. Some population without maybe electricity, without energy, they can achieve some good results, some good achievement. But in academia, I think there is lack of publications and texts to illustrate and demonstrate this good things. I think it's modestly my point of view about this. And also me, sometimes I forget that when we write some papers, we write for the journals, okay? We write for our careers, okay? But even if we want that our message will arrive to the politics, we try to change the language. We try to change the words to be able that the decision makers, because we are scientists, we make research, but we have not the power of decision. Agree with me? So we try to change the language to be able that our scientific message will arrive simply and significantly to the people who take the decision at the final. I think this is my point of view about
Yeah,
this.
I really join you on that, and I think like Lindy's question is really important. One of my studies, I mean, I've been researching this topic for more than 3 years and trying, to see the differences. I mean, like the research is quite advanced in the Western countries, the US, UK, France, Germany, like they could grasp the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem. There is a matrix in the world, global entrepreneurship monitor, and it's really prominent. They have all the data, but when you go to Algeria, to Tunisia, to these countries, you will find the data stopped in 2013. So in Algeria it stopped in 2013. What is the reason? Is it politics? Is it this? It's so hard to get to collect the data in these kind of countries. And when it comes to the literature and all of that, I really kind of align with Professor Maliki, because like the ecosystem in itself is complex. Entrepreneurship in itself is complex. There is so much dynamics between entrepreneurs, between clients, suppliers, the markets, the national level. So in one of my research, what we did, we took the model of Theodoraki and Messigem, 2013. She did the micro level, meso level, and the macro level. So on the micro level, she took incubator, but I changed it because I wanted my research to be kind of creative. So I put the entrepreneur at the micro level because its intention, his background is really important, the decision making, his education as well. And on the meso level, I took some elements from Eisenberg. Eisenberg came up with the 2016, Eisenberg came up with a kind of a model that includes culture, that includes market, that includes, the policies and all of that. So I took these two models, combined it in my way, and trying to adapt it to Algeria, because nothing from the West could be adapted to Algeria. You need an Algerian to be able to do this. And this is what we want for the other countries, for example, in South Africa or other developing countries. And this is the importance of research. Research are really important in terms of designing and conceptualizing this kind of theories. But when it comes to practice, it's still really challenging. It's very challenging at the moment. But hopefully in the future, we will be able to have an impact. And we have, researcher like Professor Maliki who are really impactful. And yeah. Is
But
there
I have
any?
a question now on that. The both of you say we need more information and you refer to the data. But now, Prof. Maliki, you referred a lot to the quantitative measures when we say we need measurement. And you referred a lot to quantitative, and obviously it's money. You're speaking to an accountant. But we live in an era of ESG, etc. Please elaborate a bit and tell us more about the qualitative measures of entrepreneurial success. Is it only about making money? And what do you see in terms of the challenges and the positive impacts in society, say, developing economies, the global south? What do you see as qualitative measures of entrepreneurial success?
Lindy, thanks for these questions. I think now the scale of the measurement must take in consideration some specific aspects, as you say now before. But for the qualitative, the problem is that entrepreneurship is not a static phenomenon, it's a dynamic phenomenon. What does it mean? Today, I am starting my entrepreneurial activity. I am the top in SMEs, for example, in my country, but maybe tomorrow or after tomorrow, in short time, I will be declining. What does it mean? My activity is dynamic, are not static. And in quantitative or qualitative measurement, you try to use this measurement. Why? To prepare some different scenarios to the future. For example, the first hypothesis, what will be the activity if, for example, there is a new law or new regulation arrive in this ecosystem? For example, what is the second hypothesis? What is the impact, for example, of artificial intelligence, for example, in my activities? How I can prepare the second scenario? Because for a good manager, you cannot take a decision randomly like this. Tomorrow I sleep. Tomorrow I change this organigram, or no. We try to prepare some scenarios, and at the time, the online time, you have in your mind on your copybook or in some scenarios, and you will take a decision taking this. It's like a pilot who prepared the flight before the on. Before he have 1 hour to review all statistics about the wealth, about the electricity, about energy, about all the plane. He not came 5 minutes and he start. So I think this is the like a pilot. You pilot your activity, your entrepreneurial activity, and you have all your mind in the future, some scenarios, maybe you use some quantitative or qualitative methods or models, but you keep them, and even at online time, there is an event, your behavior, your competence is what will be the scenario that you will apply now, depending on the event. I think this is why also in entrepreneurship, we try to use this kind of methods.
Absolutely. And Sammy, your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you have any to add, any comments or thoughts on what Prof. Maliki said now?
I mean, I kind of agree with the Professor Maliki in terms of the data and how it's hard like in our countries. But at the moment, I think we could include maybe the diaspora. I mean, I've read the question on the chat box about how the diaspora can play and contribute to the production of knowledge. Which will serve to inform policy. I mean, it's really important because, like there is a statement that I took from one of my mentor, who is like a board member in a big, multinational group. And he told me like, people of knowledge doesn't have power and people of power doesn't have knowledge. So that's really, like deep in terms of meaning. The diaspora, it depends where the diaspora is based. That's the first, thing to agree on. Is it on the West? Is it on the East? Is it on South Africa? Is it on? So every experience is different. And when the diaspora approach the government of any countries, the government will react, will be reticent because they are on the ground, and people who are on the ground, they understand the issues much better than someone who is not on the ground. Even if you are a researcher on the same country, they see issues, they see obstacles and challenges that researcher don't see in that moment. So they believe, and they have this kind of, like a horse who got this, lanyard, and they see like straight. They want to solve problem in the most effective and the most efficient way, which is two concept that doesn't exist in academia. I'm afraid we are not efficient. We took time. We need budget. We need to collect the data. We need to take our time. We need to reflect, to brainstorm. So that's why like the gap between both, like perspectives and both words is really difficult, and it needs a lot of engagement and discussion. But hopefully we will get there.
Yes, Sami, I agree with you. I have one little problem. I don't love a lot the concept of diaspora. For me,
That's true. Yeah. It's community abroad. Let's
exactly.
add this.
Because for the
Community
decision
abroad.
maker,
I know
if
where
you
you
tell
are
him
coming from. I
diaspora
know.
is like in the other side, in the other region, but
Yeah, many people told me that, but I don't know if you want to go through the history of diaspora. Do you want to share? I know you want to share your thought about diaspora, so please go ahead.
Yeah, please give us background. Okay, hang on now. I'm going to go to one of our questions from Yassine. I think, Prof. Samir, you've seen this. It says, nice to see you again. And she had the opportunity to meet at the University of Bristol during an international conference, and it's now 10 years later. And she has a question. What has changed since then in Algeria, in the Algerian entrepreneurial ecosystem, with reference to the concept of good governance? Sami, that's a really interesting question because you and I touched on it briefly as well. And from me in South Africa as well, I think that question resonates with me, or with us in South Africa, that now has a new democracy that's around 30 years old, and things change. Prof. Samir, you made the point to say that it's a dynamic environment where things changes all the time. So from your point of view, in Algeria or in the developing economies, how has things changed, or has it gotten perhaps worse? Is there more control and less open accountability and good governance? What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Lindy. Thank you, Yassine, for your question. Exactly, I remember very well. 10 years before, I must thank Professor Bambrika, who was the dean of the Faculty of Business and Management at the Biskra University in Algeria, and was one of the first universities who organized this kind of event about entrepreneurship. So, for example, if you take the example of Algeria, the majority of economic activity are concentrated in the north. But for example, in academia, the first university to organize was in the south. What does it mean? It means that entrepreneurship is dynamic. This is the first thing. Now, if I try to respond to Yassine about the question, what main changes? I think people. Now, I'm sure, for example, I teach in Algeria. I teach also in Pan-African University. People who came from different African countries with grants from African Union. I teach entrepreneurship, financial management, water economics. And I can tell you now, if I compare students 10 years before and now, there is a lot of students who arrive with new spirit, with new voluntary, with new passion to entrepreneurship, to create their own activity, to go to the obstacle, to go to the uncertainty. Because before, it's like in some countries, I prefer to get position in public sector. It's okay for me at the end of the month or the end of the week. I have my salary, I have my holidays, etc., etc. But now I think there is a new generation of population. The second point, I think, if I take the case of Algeria to respond to Yassine, I see now that a lot of students are talking English, are working with English language. And I think this open opportunity to read the maximum and the majority of recent publications and communications, some text. Also, it's an advantage now in comparison with maybe 10 years before. The third thing is the globalization in the case of ICT. Actually, I think we can get any course, we can show and any webinar, and we can learn a lot of things, and not only in the institutions or in the universities. I think these factors are pushing young people to take this entrepreneurship in consideration, and they try to get this opportunity. Also, there is in curricula, in academic programs now, 7 or 8 years before, it was introduced in all programs, entrepreneurship course for engineer, for health sciences, for biology, for economics, for human sciences also. So this course of entrepreneurship is dedicated for all students. I think this is one of factors. Now, in parallel, there is some governance factors, as you know. There is now ministry dedicated to entrepreneurship and innovation activities. There is some funds, special fund to support people who arrive with new ideas. There is some public and also private incubators who was starting, for example, in the case of Algeria. I think this dynamics was have a positive impact on the population. And there is another phenomenon. I know a lot of people who have more than 50 years old, and they stop working in public for sector for different reasons, and they try to develop their own business or their entrepreneurship own activity. I think all these factors was the main factors who push now and develop the entrepreneurship spirit in the case of Algeria. I hope that I can, Yassine, you get this response good for you.
Fantastic. Wow, that's lovely to hear how things open up. And you make the very important point of access to knowledge. And as we bridge that barrier through technology, I'd love to hear more from your side on how your thoughts on how digitalization or the digital transformation has affected entrepreneurship. Perhaps, not only in smaller or developing economies, but globally as well. I think, how does it affect currencies, trading, products, services, etc.? Any thoughts on that from your side?
Sorry, can you repeat, please, the last idea?
Yes. Let me speak up.
Yeah.
So you made the point of the importance of access to information and knowledge, and the digital transformation that we live in has enabled that to a large degree. What are your thoughts, both you, Samir and Sami, on how the digital transformation and the fourth industrial revolution has impacted specifically on entrepreneurship? Not business alone, but, starting your own thing as such.
Do you want Sami to start?
Yeah,
Please.
I can start with that. I mean, it's a question that have been, approached on my on the research I've done like the past years, and it's more like on the meso level. So like the knowledge transfer between universities and the knowledge transfer between support institution and between universities and students, and how they teach entrepreneurship and all this kind of interaction. I've got like a lot of data that I'm really happy to share with you if you want me to. I've done like this. If you can see my screen here, we got like a big chunk of we updated the global entrepreneurship monitor, so we have a comparison between Algeria 2013 and Algeria 2024 with the perspective of entrepreneurs and the perspective of practitioner. Practitioner is the heads of incubators, heads of universities, heads of consultancy firms, etc. So we got three kind of perspectives. And from that, we can see that science park support and universities tech transfer has increased, as well as the youth entrepreneurship has increased over the years. However, their perception in terms of private fund, government assistance, government subsidies, so where they can find support, and all of that has decreased over years. And we even have the numbers. So we collected like something like 92 response on 2024 compared to 62 response in 2013. So it means like the GEM has been struggling to get data from Algeria for various reasons that I'm not completely aware of, and I can go on and on, but I will let Professor Maliki jump in and yeah, give us his thought about the subject.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sami. Thanks for sharing this information. Exactly. I have a PhD candidate in Tlemcen until now who works about the role of startups in France, in Algeria. And we sent a questionnaire 3 months ago to the directors of incubators, of entrepreneurship hubs, etc. And we have a lot of hard difficulties to collect data. I agree with you about this kind of culture, maybe. Sometimes we must have time to change some culture behaviors. It's like I have some information, some data in my mind. If I share this, maybe I will lose some opportunities but in fact, in general, maybe when I share this data, I will get more best opportunities to maybe work with other people, to know to know other knowledge, other methods, and what I think, because for me the main problems in Algeria, the majority of academic institutions are public. What does it mean? It means that from long time we are waiting some decision from the top management, from the ministry, and by this way people who are in the practice is like they don't want to share some things before getting some authorization, etc., etc. I think this, but now it's changing because there is new private institutions who are in the market. Slowly, they take some part of the market. Sorry, I use the business concept of education. And I think in the next years, maybe Algeria, we will, for example, if we talk the institution who collects data, who publish data, is the ONS, Office National des Statistiques, is an Algerian National Office of Statistics. If you want some statistics, you are obliged to take this sources only. I not know some private institution who produce data in Algeria. I don't know. Maybe there is someone or two, but in my mind, I don't know some private institution who are dedicated to produce data. It means collect, makes a lot of surveys and publish, or maybe sell this. I don't know. So I remember also some international institutions like World Bank, IMF, when they start some surveys in the case of Algeria. Maybe it takes a lot of time in comparison with the other areas region, or maybe sometimes they don't finish the survey. So that's why I think, in my mind, in my point of view, I must take this as a variable in my study, in my research. I take this like a variable, and I try sometimes to use some what we call proxy variables. It means if I cannot access to some specific data, I try in the literature to use other proxy to be able to present my different scenarios. And after, if I meet some politics or people who are in this decision and they tell me you are through, it's not good, your results, try to get the access, and I can maybe modify. But I think now it's like a first step for the ecosystems with missing data. but we try to use this ecosystem with missing data, but we try to use it as with it. For me, this is my philosophy, if you want, in this kind of research.
Yeah, that's an important point that I was also thinking about. You're referring to the challenges of, collecting data. And the same counts, I think, also in terms of for our entrepreneurs or society to gain access to knowledge on entrepreneurship as well. Because we've said, it's easier now in a digital era, but only for those who do have access to technology, the internet, etc. And I think in 2024, you'd assume everyone has, but in developing economies or poorer countries, that's not necessarily the case. In South Africa, I'm under correction, but my knowledge, my understanding is that the majority of our economy is built on smaller businesses, and our micro business economy, which includes, for example, vendors on a sidewalk that sells small packets of chips or food for passers-by. That's our micro economy, and it's very informal. It's hardly governed, hardly any labor laws or anything like that is necessarily applied or monitored. That's a big important part of our economy, and I think it's hard for that sector to necessarily have access to the knowledge, and also for us to obtain data from this very important part of our economy. So that remains a challenge. And I think informal business is, I assume, very alive in economies or countries where unemployment, for example, is high, because it is quite comfortable to join or to go work for government or in the public sector. It's safe and secure, but where there's high unemployment, that isn't the opportunity for everyone. So in my environment, micro business, informal business should really be explored and understood and investigated much more. And I think there's so much opportunity to contribute there as well in terms of knowledge, in terms of, assisting that part of society to also learn, obtain knowledge and maximize their livelihood. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is this common in many other economies and countries, or is it quite unique to where I'm at?
Thanks, Lindy. You talk about very interesting and very important points that sometimes in academia we miss this. In 2009, sorry, I published with some colleagues from Tlemcen. You can get this paper, working paper in Google Scholar about the black market exchange rate. And I remember when we start the survey, we meet some our former students who prepare a diploma in economics, for example, and management, and they get any position in the work sector, in the employment. So they moved to informal, and there was one of who works in the exchange rate. Okay, so from foreign currencies to Algerian currencies, and I demand them to write each day, for example, the rates. Okay, and we get some statistics for 4 or 5 months, I remember, and we write this paper. Lindy, for me, it's not a black market or black economy or parallel economy or informal economy. For me, it's like a gold economy. Why? Because you will find some people who can sell, buy, exchange only by phone with some people in other areas. They can develop an activity without any building. They can get money. They can get credits only with words, with other colleagues. And all this mechanism is working very well. They get benefits at the end. What does it mean? It means not parallel or informal or black or all these words. For me, it's gold. For me, it's a good manager. He can take the opportunity. He can compare the prices in the market. He can get this opportunity to buy maybe some merchandise from Turkey, from I don't know, Europe, and he can sell this in informal activities, but he can get benefits. What does it mean? It means that from the practice, he get the knowledge. The experience of the practice equal knowledge in academia. And for me, now the governance mission is how you motivate this guy to be in the formal activity. I think some of measures were taken few years before. For example, ask them, came in the banks, put your money, and I will don't ask you what was the source of your money, etc. But population was not aligned with this activity. They prefer to keep the money in their houses and to keep their activity in informal sector. Otherwise, because they think about a lot of taxes, they think about a lot of traceability, they think about maybe a lot. They have maybe other ideas to invest more and more, and be sure that you have some people who are, I am gay, and I have maybe 50 or 40 people who works with me in this like organigram informal activity, and all population are working without any problem. We have not only in North Africa, but also in all maybe the majority of African countries that I visit, and I see population who are in the street selling a lot of products with price. You can negotiate, and he can negotiate with you, etc., etc. What does it mean? It means by nature, population are all intelligent. Population, they can get opportunities, but the problem how we can analyze, if I can use this, how we can prepare the area and to get and focus all our efforts to this well-being who can be for all populations. I think this is my ideas about your question, Lindy. So a gold activity, not parallel or black.
Oh, wow, that's such a wonderful view. And just a remark, I made the point of how can we, empower those entrepreneurs, but it's often the other way around. What can we learn from these very streetwise business people? Sammy, thoughts from you on the point?
Yeah, I've got very strong opinion on this topic. I mean, it's really important for me, and like big part of my career. I will start with like micro, meso, macro to make sense of it, and I kind of align with the Professor Malik on many points. And there is another concept coming from that market, which is like the gray market. This gray market is in between of the black and the normal. So you bend the boundaries on what is legal and what is not, because there is no legal, strong legal infrastructure in Algeria, for example, because it's part of my. Let me give you an example. I was with the very successful entrepreneur in Algeria, a youth who focus on his sphere of influence. He doesn't look the hardship, the obstacles, the challenges. It's all the same. The market is the same for everyone. We interact in this specific context, which is, for example, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, whatever, South Africa, and we are all, like interfering with the same law, with the same market, with the same national policy, etc. But there is some that focus on their sphere of influence, so they develop their strength and they try to find solutions on this kind of problems, while the other focus on their sphere of content concern. So they will start complaining about the bureaucracy. Oh, it takes so long. The market is not good on there. So they complain instead of trying to find. So I will give you an example. So I was with this successful entrepreneur, and he wanted to expand his business. So he wanted to expand his business and open an affiliate. And because of the cost and stuff, he wanted to buy land. So he went to the council. He went to the council and started applying for the process. But the process took long. They explained to him, like he was queuing and they told him it's going to take up to 6 months. So what he did, he went to the officer in charge of his documents and he told him, hey man, do you want to work as an external consultant? The guy was happy because he got like a very low wage. So he employed him in his small business and he brought him every day after working hours. So when he finished work from the council, he was coming to the CEO, to the entrepreneur's office, work from 4 to 6. He paid him, the entrepreneur paid him, and the guy was focusing on his documents, and he got the process reduced from 6 months to 2 weeks. So this is a way that he was focusing on the sphere of influence, bending the law because it might be seen as a bribery. It's
not corruption.
unethical.
This is not considered as corruption. Not corruption. This is like design thinking. How I resolve my problem.
Exactly, how to resolve your problem in the best way possible, in the most effective possible. And at the end, he got him like 50 euros or maybe, I don't know, 10,000 dinars, and that's it. It's so easy. And he expanded his business at the end of the day. So this is an example of how, an entrepreneur can, overcome this kind of challenges. But now we will move on to meso level. I think some of the question raised in the chat box about finding solution. Research is more interested in question. It's not interested in solution. But when we take like an entrepreneur and the small businesses, they are part of the system. So we are all part of the system and we all interact. And we all have these dynamics inside of the system. So if you take off one of the SMEs, it will create a hole. So the whole network can collapse because one of them is defectuous. So the solution is everybody needs to be productive. Everybody needs to be ethical. Everybody needs to be proactive and think, like in the best way without hurting, the others. So this is one of the solution that I might, like recommend and we try to convince. And when we go to the macro level, I mean, I have investigated. My study is about investigating the macro level, so I can even like share with you some of the, like findings that we got. So, for example, here you can get like compared to 2013 and 2024, you can see that there is a better access to research and technology, and there is a we have been asking SMEs, do you think like new and growing firm has as much access to new research and technologies compared to a large firm? And like the majority said yes. Well, when it comes to supplier services, legal accountancy, banking service, it was the same. It's really hard to change this kind of infrastructure over time. But when it comes to communication access, a new or growing firm can get good access to communication like telephone, internet, etc. in about a week. This one dropped. So it means like a big investment has been done before, and now that investment has not been maintained. So injecting money to this investment or making or exploiting the infrastructure has not been, really profitable to the government or to the country. So that's why like a deterioration of that infrastructure has been noticed. And you can see that in universities, they bring tables and like good materials in when they open, but then these materials are not renewed and they are not, like maintained over time. And one of the findings that I really want to share with you and really like align with what has been said before is about culture. Like there is so from all the data, 2013 and 2024, and with practitioner and everyone, the culture has not changed. The perception on career entrepreneur has not changed. The culture of risk taking has not changed. The creativity has not changed, which means it's really hard to change the culture of a country. And we've noticed like youth involvement in entrepreneurship. So youth are much more involved nowadays, and this is part of the demographic. So Algeria has more than 1 million students, and we have 200,000 graduates every year. And these 200 graduates every year, where are they going to work? Because the country is mainly a rentier country. We are based on oil and gas. So we invest massively on oil and gas and on infrastructure to exploit that oil and gas. So all the companies that are kind of profitable and successful are in the oil and gas industry, Sonatrach and stuff. So which creates a very small amount of jobs vacant vacation, available for this youth, the 300,000 youth. And where is the solution? The solution is in entrepreneurship. Let's go create your SMEs and start hiring. So that's one of the like solution that we try to convince. And yeah, that is my point of view on this very important question. Thank you for asking it, Lindy. Really appreciate this kind of conversation needs to be done, and I really like to be involved in what you guys are doing with the Governance Academy.
I would like just to share in the same idea what I love, like iceberg. When you see the iceberg, you have, it's like this is the entrepreneurship spirit. You have some observable behavior that you can see only.
Hang on, we don't see your screen yet.
Sorry.
Your iceberg yet.
Now you can see.
It doesn't project well. Sammy, can you see well? I just see half of it.
Me too. I can see half of it. So maybe if you can download it again. Yeah. Now I try to share your screen again.
I try to again. Maybe now you can see.
No, it's still coming like it's blurry. There is like a big chunk.
Yeah, sorry.
Gray squares that comes, but.
No, sorry.
Sorry. So to explain, when we have the iceberg, only you have one part that you see under the sea, what we call the observable behavior, and after under you have the explicit knowledge and the values, and also under at the last part you will get so the entrepreneurship, the vision, how he can get the opportunity. For the first part, all population are seeing the same thing, so no problem. But he can get a look under the sea. This is what I would like to show. I'm sorry for this.
No, that's fantastic. And please send us that slide if you don't mind, and I'll put it online for our audience and attendees to have a look at. So we're running out of time, and I would love to continue this conversation for hours still, because we haven't even properly addressed ESG and so many other very important aspects that I'd love to talk to you about more. But I'd like to invite the both of you to share some closing remarks from your side on entrepreneurship and the times that we live in. First, Prof. Samir, if you would, and then Sammy, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, we're running out of time, and I just invite the both of you to share some closing remarks from your side.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, it's really, thank you very much. I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to thank the audience for being such, like so interested and engaged. And I've seen the questions, and people try to find, solutions and raise like very, very important questions. I think this kind of discussion should take more often and include maybe in the future more people and to benefit and as well as to contribute, because we need to have this dialogue with policymakers and with actors like yourself and the good Governance Academy. This is something really important. I think we have benefited a lot from Professor Maliki today, and really looking forward of your work and what you are doing, guys. Thank you very much again for inviting me.
Thank you, Sammy. Prof. Maliki?
Yeah, as Sammy talked now, thank you very much for inviting me. It was very I don't see the hour pacing, because for me it's like we can talk 4 hours of all the day about these huge topics. Thank you very much again. It was a great debate, and I think the debate is continuing. I just maybe tell a very little sentence why we are all enjoying orange juice when we take this, because in parallel we know something bitter. It means that for entrepreneurship process, if you have a lot of obstacles, it means that at the end you will get very good thing. So do not be discouraging by this obstacle, by this hard process, by this maybe bureaucracy, but take this as a positive thing to continue your path to arrive to achieve your objects and what you are aiming to do in your life. Thank you very much again.
Wow, absolutely. I can not add anything to those wise words. So to our two panelists, Sami and Prof. Samir, thank you so much for joining us. It really is a privilege to have you on our panel and to share knowledge with our audience. So to our attendees, thank you. You were indeed interactive. So much more to discuss and so many more questions to ask. So I think we should invite our guests again for a second session early next year. But I think that's all from the Good Governance Academy and the Research Forum side. Thank you so much to everyone, also to Carolyn and the Good Governance Academy for this platform. Everyone, please connect with our presenters on LinkedIn and be sure to visit our website at the Good Governance Academy, where this recording will be available, as well as our channel on YouTube. From my side, from Lindy's side, thank you everyone for yet another wonderful, informative webinar. Thanks. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.